Imagine walking into the Oval Office or standing before a dictator, looking them dead in the eye and saying, "I'm canceling the rain." Not predicting it, canceling it until I say otherwise,
That is a career-limiting move to say the least.
right? And that's exactly how we open today. We are looking at a figure who is arguably the most dramatic, volatile, and fascinating character in the ancient texts, Elijah, specifically the narrative arc in 1 Kings, chapters 17 through 19. It's a story that has everything: political thriller elements, supernatural showdowns, and a very intense psychological crash.
It really is a roller coaster, and what strikes me immediately is how abrupt Elijah's introduction is. In chapter 17, he just appears. No backstory, no growing up in a small town. He just walks in, tells King Ahab, who is historically a very bad dude, that there will be no dew or rain, and then vanishes.
It's the ultimate mic drop. But then, the story takes a weird turn. You'd expect him to stay and fight, but God tells him to run. And not just run, but to hide by a brook called Cherith. And this is where the details get strange. Who is catering his meals?
Ravens, scavenger birds. It's deeply ironic. Elijah is an orthodox, clean-living prophet, and he's being fed bread and meat by unclean birds. It's the first lesson in his training. Survival requires suspending your expectations of how help is supposed to arrive.
And then the water runs out. The brook dries up. Which honestly must have been terrifying. You're the guy who stopped the rain, and now you're dying of thirst because of your own prophecy.
Exactly. The irony is thick. So he's sent to Zarephath, and this is crucial. Zarephath is in Sidon. That is enemy territory. That is where Queen Jezebel is from. He's hiding in the lion's mouth, and he meets a widow who is literally preparing her last meal for herself and her son so they can eat it and die.
That scene is so heavy. She's gathering 2 sticks. Just 2. That's how little fuel she needs because she has almost nothing left to cook. And Elijah, the man of God, asks her for bread first. It sounds incredibly selfish on the surface.
It does, doesn't it? Feed me before your starving child. But it's not about selfishness. It's about an invitation to trust. He tells her the jar of flour won't run out. It's a counterintuitive economic model. You have to give away what you can't afford to keep in order to survive. And it works. They eat for days.
But the drama doesn't stop there. The son dies. The widow turns on Elijah, basically saying, "Did you come here just to highlight my sins and kill my boy?"
This is a pivotal moment. Up until now, Elijah has been a conduit for messages. Here, he becomes a wrestler with God. He takes the boy, goes upstairs, and literally stretches himself out over the body 3 times. He cries out, "Why have you brought this tragedy? It's raw." And the boy revives. This is actually the first recorded resurrection in the scriptures. It sets the stage for the fact that Elijah isn't just a weather reporter. He's dealing with life and death.
Which leads us to the main event. Chapter 18. The famine has been going on for 3 years. The tension is at a breaking point. Elijah comes back out of hiding to face Ahab.
And the exchange is classic. Ahab sees him and says, "Is that you, you troubler of Israel?" He blames the whistleblower for the fire.
Typical leadership deflection.
Precisely. But Elijah challenges him to a contest, Mount Carmel. This is high drama. On one side, you have 450 prophets of Baal and 400 prophets of Asherah. On the other side, one guy, Elijah.
The terms are simple. Build an altar, put a bull on it, but don't light it. The God who answers by fire is the real God.
And the psychological warfare here is hilarious. The Baal prophets scream and dance from morning till noon. Nothing happens. And Elijah starts mocking them. He's trash talking. He says, "Yell louder." Maybe he's deep in thought. Maybe he's traveling. Maybe he's asleep.
I love that part. It's so human. He's basically asking if their God is taking a nap.
Or using the bathroom. The Hebrew euphemism there is quite earthly. But as the day wears on, the Baal prophets get desperate, cutting themselves. It's gruesome. Then evening comes. Silence.
Then it's Elijah's turn, and he does something that makes no sense. He repairs the altar, puts the wood and the bull on it, and then he asks for water.
Lots of water. 4 jars, poured 3 times, 12 jars total. He drenches the wood, the sacrifice, and fills the trench around it. In the middle of a 3-year drought, wasting water is insane. He's making it impossible for the wood to catch fire naturally. He's removing any doubt of a trick.
And then
a simple prayer, no screaming. Just let it be known today that you are God, and boom, fire falls. But it doesn't just burn the meat. It consumes the wood, the stones, the dust, and licks up the water in the trench. It's a nuclear event. The people fall on their faces. The verdict is in.
You'd think, after a victory like that, Fire from the sky, the false prophets defeated, and then the rain finally returning, that Elijah would be on top of the world. He's the champion.
That's what makes chapter 19 so fascinating. This is where the story shifts from an action movie to a psychological drama. Ahab tells Queen Jezebel what happened. She doesn't blink. She sends a messenger to Elijah saying, essentially, by this time tomorrow, you're dead.
And the man who stood down 450 prophets and called down fire runs.
He runs for his life, he leaves his servant behind and goes a day's journey into the wilderness. He sits under a juniper tree and prays to die. He says, it is enough, I am no better than my fathers. It's total burnout.
Why? Why does he crash so hard right after winning?
It's the adrenaline dump. He expected a spiritual revival in the nation, but all he got was a death threat. He feels like a failure. He feels entirely alone. He's physically exhausted and emotionally bankrupt.
And God's response is interesting. He doesn't lecture him. He doesn't say, where is your faith?
No, God sends an angel, and the angel says, arise and eat. He gives him cake and water. Elijah sleeps, wakes up, eats again, and sleeps again. It's profound. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is take a nap and have a snack.
We've all been there.
After he recovers physically, he travels 40 days to Horeb, the mountain of God. And here is the climax of the theology of this text. Elijah is hiding in a cave. God asks, what are you doing here? Elijah gives this speech about how he's the only one left and everyone is trying to kill him.
He's playing the victim card pretty hard.
He is. So God says, go stand on the mountain. And then nature goes wild. A massive wind tears the rocks apart. But the text says, the Lord was not in the wind.
Then an earthquake.
The Lord was not in the earthquake.
Then a fire.
The Lord was not in the fire. And this is shocking for Elijah, right? Because his whole ministry has been fire. He is the fire guy. But God isn't in the pyrotechnics this time.
So what happens?
After the fire, a still small voice, or as some translations put it, a sound of sheer silence, a delicate whisper. And that is when Elijah wraps his face in his cloak and goes out.
That gives me chills. It's like God is saying, I can be in the big show, but I'm really found in the intimacy.
Exactly. The noise is not the presence. We often mistake the spectacle for the spiritual. But in that silence, God gives him his new marching orders. And interestingly, the orders are about succession. Anoint a new king and anoint Elisha to take your place.
It's God saying, you're not alone and you're not indispensable.
Right. I have 7,000 people who haven't bowed to Baal. Elijah's isolation was a lie his depression told him. He wasn't the only one. And then he meets Elisha.
That meeting is great too. Elisha is plowing a field with 12 yoke of oxen. He's a wealthy farmer. Elijah walks by and throws his mantle, his cloak, on him.
It's the ancient draft. You're on the team. Elisha burns his plow, cooks the oxen, feeds the people, and walks away from his old life. It marks the beginning of the end for Elijah's solo run. He finally has a partner.
So when we look at this whole arc, from the drought to the fire to the whisper, what's the takeaway? It feels like a story about the cost of standing for something.
It is. It teaches us that obedience often leads to isolation, that public victories don't cure private emptiness, and that we need to be careful where we look for God. If we only look for him in the miracles and the fire, we'll miss him in the silence and the whisper.
And also, maybe, that even the strongest among us need to eat, sleep, and realize we aren't the only ones left fighting the good fight.
Absolutely. The Superman prophet was just a man, and that makes the story infinitely more relatable.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive into Kings. It's a reminder that sometimes the loudest message comes in the quietest voice. Thanks for listening.
See you next time. If you have been blessed by this, please like, subscribe, and share this joy with others. God bless.